Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the desk here in Alpharetta, Georgia. My name is Tom Battinger, otherwise known as F. Dot, and to my left is Hindu Man.
Well, we've got 2 games to bring you today for Friday. They're not going to be very long, I don't think.
Well, we'll take a look. We've got some exciting matchups as far as how that's going to go. We'll see how the players wind up. And don't forget, if you have players on your mind, you can visit alphadraft.com and put your knowledge to the test. Figure out who you think are going to be the best performing players today, and go ahead and win real money for exercising your knowledge in the esports scene.
Yep, have a little look over at Epsilon. First of all, they're a decent team to look at picking up members for, at least for your Alpha Draft.
Exactly, as far as Alpha Draft is concerned. And as far as the game is concerned, you can expand your own game by picking up the New Horizons Nuwa skin. It's a space-themed skin for one of our favorite mages that has recently risen to prominence in the middle lane. And in addition to that, if you've purchased the other 2 items that are part of the Odyssey, we will gift you the We Are the Ward skin. It's an exciting ward skin that flashes through all of the Pantheons that are featured in Smite currently.
What's with us doing stuff to do with space all of a sudden? We just did Alien Outwash, and now we're doing Space Noir.
I mean, people are just out there.
We had Space and Her as well, technically.
Honestly, I think the artists are just. I think the artists are really just listening to the Beastie Boys. It's all about that intergalactic, and everybody's going to squad up this weekend for the squad goals. If you guys go ahead and play with some of your friends this weekend from October 16th to 18th, 2+ in your party, you'll be able to earn double the favor, double the fun, double the worshippers, and double the FP as well.
Double the worshippers is the key there. You can try and grind those up to the rank 10s for your diamond skins. So, find a buddy, play along.
Yeah, double the worshippers for you, maybe. I don't know. I listened to your picks last week, so I've got to make up some of the missed FP that I've got. So, I'm going to squad up later on. Me and Kevin were talking about it. We'll squad up.
I said it wasn't free FP week last week. I'm just saying.
So getting into it, we're going to start off today with the European games. It's Fnatic versus JusTus. JusTus fighting to keep their playoff dreams alive. They've got to win both games here today as they take on Fnatic. JusTus hoping to change Fnatic's win-loss to 15-9. JusTus currently 3-19. As we said, it looks dismal, but not mathematically out. If they win both games here, their dreams are still alive.
They have to win every single game for the rest of the season to JusTus, starting with Fnatic. And Fnatic, they're not going to want to try and drop these games either because they're hot on the heels of Paradigm here. They have 2 more games left. Sorry, 2 games over Paradigm that are left at the moment, and they need to win every single one, including the match of the week.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. That's on Sunday, and that'll be some of our top teams. It's Paradigm taking on Fnatic. That'll be one of the games that we take a look on Sunday, and the implications for that as far as seeding process and the land that will follow that is, well, incredible. A lot of these teams are fighting to really get their seeding down because Epsilon seems nigh unbeatable, and whoever winds up in that 4th spot is going to be an issue. So Paradigm will be taking on Fnatic, the team that's playing against JusTus today. We'll take a look at their roster. It starts off with Realzx in the Hunter role, really one of the spotlight players here, but we will be missing a Captain Twig, so the substitute will be their coach and friend Epindary stepping in for the roster today.
Yeah, Epindary is part of the team as well, so it's not going to be a big change from switching him into the role. Obviously, a bit of changes towards the jungle mentality, maybe, and what you expect out of the jungler this time around. Epindary probably going to pick something a little bit safer and more standard jungle. But not going to see anything crazy come out from I suspect, and just let the boys tick what they normally do in their lanes and just keep things going.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Epindary play. I know he's a great mind, and he's actually been a good friend of mine for a long time, going back to when I first started doing streaming. So it's exciting to see him actually step up and see what's going on. Don't know why Captain Twig's not available, but we will be seeing Epindary play today, which should be exciting to see how Fnatic works. And JusTus, as we said, they've got to win both games, so I'm sure they're hoping Epindary is a little bit behind. We'll take a look at the 5 guys that are taking on Fnatic in hopes of keeping their playoff dreams alive to make it to the super regional LAN.
Big thing about this team today is Argonath will be in the solo lane. Zephyr is not available for today, so he's going to be subbed in. Is Argonath going to be taking place for him? And what a colossal task that guy has to step into a game against Fnatic in the solo lane, and on the back of JusTus needing to win every single game. A lot of eyes will be on him today to see if he can perform, just to keep maniaKK sustained to an extent and don't let maniaKK go off too much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times we talk about must-win games and use that sort of maybe liberally, but this is quite literally a must-win game for JusTus. If they don't win, well, they're just not going to LAN.
They're done. So. They're done completely. If they don't win, that's it. They're out of the SPL. Well, not out of the SPL, but out of the relegations. They can still make LAN as of this minute before picks and bans happen, before Game 1 happens. If Fnatic win Game 1, I don't think Game 2 will last very long.
Well,
That's my expectation. It's kind of the same for Elevate later on today.
We'll take a look. Before we get into picks and bans, though, I have a personal message. My mom, it's her birthday, so she's probably out there watching. So happy birthday to my mom. Wonderful woman. Happy birthday, Mom.
So many things that run through my head then immediately. But happy birthday, Tom's mum. Happy birthday.
I appreciate it. Why don't we get into game right now? JusTus versus Fnatic. Game 1, picks and bans underway. We'll take a look at these two teams. JusTus, as we said, it's a must-win, but Fnatic, they go ahead and they win their choice. They'll be playing first, and they get first ban and first pick.
Now, the big thing about Fnatic this season, a lot of Rama, 10 picks of that so far going up to Realzx, and his second go-to has been Freya for the most part. Some Wukong for maniaKK. Now, maniaKK in this solo lane for Fnatic, all season long, he's only played Warriors and Guardians. He played one game as an assassin on Ratatoska, but everything else is Warriors, Guardians all the way. The only magical we ever see out of him is a Guardian.
Right.
And so I wonder if we'll see a Warrior today, Tom.
Well, we'll take a look. With Hell taken off the board, I mean, that's really... It's a character that has made her way into the mid lane, but normally her home is usually solo, so that's not quite there. Giannis also taken off by Fnatic. Khepri, the first ban coming out of JusTus. Last ban of the phase coming out for the team on the right-hand side, and it'll be Serket. So Fnatic, they don't have the top pick mage or the top pick assassin available. Will we see the Sun Wukong?
Well, it is a top pick warrior, that's for sure, and it is available for Fnatic. I don't understand why they wouldn't go for this if they chose not to, just because it's available to them, but they've got to actually lock in Neith here.
Neith is very interesting because for Fnatic, as we said, Realzx does enjoy playing that ROM a lot, but Neith, of course, can be played by the veteran hunter Realzx. That said, more often than not, Neith makes her way into the middle lane for Zyrhoes here on the squad.
Big flex pick, but mainly Zyrhoes has picked this 6 times this season. It's defaulted down to Realzx twice, and there's a Sun Wukong locked in for JusTus there. Not a surprise to see them take it away, and now Athena as well being locked in. The rise of Athena has really started to grow over the past 3 or 4 weeks.
I mean, Athena is a character that I am never surprised when she's picked. I'm never surprised when she's prominent, and when she isn't too popular, that's really when I start to question it, because not only do you have the obvious go-to answer of the global ultimate coming out from her, but you also have the taunt, which sets up virtually everything, and very interesting. You said we'll probably see something a little more standard. Najah being selected for the jungle in Fnatic. It's something we've seen Captain Twig play before, but if you missed the pregame, Captain Twig isn't going to be here. It'll be coach and supporter Epindary stepping in for the team, so maybe Najah finds himself into the solo lane, but likely to be in the jungle on Epindary.
Likely jungle, just because we said about maniaKK only playing realistically Warriors and Guardians all season long. Seeing him on an Assassin would be quite strange. We'll probably see him on a frontline tank for the most part, is what I expect out of maniaKK, so that probably will default to the jungle. And with Realzx, well, Freya's definitely going to go his way, almost certainly. I doubt we're going to see that in the jungle, but we have seen Twig do that. I don't think we'll see Epindary.
Well, Freya was actually largely born in the jungle for a large portion of the Smite situation. Here at the Pro League. We've seen Freya come out of the jungle, but with recent changes to Season 2 with respect to the jungle buffs, the purple buff most notably, Freya has really found a way into the long lane. So it's most likely that we'll see Neith in the middle lane and Realzx play on that Freya. Second round bans come out. Fnatic says no Thor for you guys, and Geb going to be banned out by JusTus.
Now, the biggest thing about that Thor ban there is that they focus on Sanjo. Sanjo's most picked god so far. Since he switched to the mid lane, to the jungle, he's been 5 times for him. Wow. He's played very, very well, and it's been a standout for JusTus. Surprised they went with the Ho-Yi, though. We've seen a lot of Apollo come out of VoteNBK over there, but going to default to the Ho-Yi this time. I expect to see a Bacchus, though, this game.
The Ho-Yi, so it's interesting, because this is where sort of stats defy you or betray you a little bit. They have picked many other gods before, but Ho-Yi most recently had a big change, now looked at by a lot of players and analysts alike to be one of the strongest hunters in the game. Fnatic rounds out their draft with the Bacchus, as you said, and Chaac, a god that was recently changed, but that's not what sort of brought him into the eyes of the players.
He got some loving, and that was one reason why he's probably being picked, but he was being picked before that by Zayla over in that solo lane too. He went pretty much raw damage and just used his base stats of being a warrior to really get the survivability into like 4th item. Then we saw a first defensive item out of Azalea. I want to see how maniaKK chooses to play this one, though. Will he go for a similar build in terms of like Jotun's Transcendence, potentially? Sure. But that last pick of Fenrir, I expected like Sun Wukong was going to be in the solo lane as well. We have seen Sun Wukong in the jungle, as we did yesterday. So it is viable in both rows, but more than likely going to see Fenrir in the jungle this time and give that nice safe lane to Argonath. because he's subbing in for JusTus by giving him some Wukong against the Chaac.
Right, I like that idea, especially if Chaac is going to go into the Stilla lane. I think it'll be very interesting as far as how that matchup will go. As you said, it'll be a nice, easy laning phase. Both Sun Wukong and Chaac can clear from a distance. And we'll take a look at Chaac, and it is going to be maniaKK on the Chaac in the solo lane. Now, you posed a question before. You said, will we see a maniaKK build come out similar to Xayah's? Xayah, of course, being very high damage. Xayah builds into the Transcendence and winds up just trying to top, or not trying, successfully topping the player damage charts. Here for maniaKK, that's not really what we see out of him traditionally. maniaKK tends to play sort of the style of Omega on Eager, if you're familiar with the North American scene, where he's generally a frontline defender. The rest of the team will group up as 4, trying to take an objective, and you'll frequently see maniaKK ahead of the pack. I expect to see something similar here.
Potentially, yeah. I think we'll probably see him go for a damaging build for the most part and see if he can do that well. But with the lineup they've got enough damage there after that. They don't need him to go for this sort of damaging role in Chaac. They'll be looking for him to be able to control and be a frontline for his team for the most part. Right. That's kind of how maniaKK's playstyle is now on these Warriors. He's a lot like Omega from Eager now. He's a frontliner that kind of exists for his team and sets his team up. If you see where the damage is going to come from, you got Realzx on Freya, and you got another hyper carry in the jungle to an extent in Neith this game as well.
Najah coming out of the Epindary, it's interesting because for those of you that don't know Epindary, he's a high-level player himself. He's sort of the mind, if you talk to the Fnatic guys, he's a mind behind a lot of the picks and stuff, so he definitely has the credentials to be playing here today. We'll see how his execution is, though, because Najah, character that has recently been very popular, but I mean, it's a high execution character, really.
It is for the most part, but nowadays in the world of Smite, you've got gods like Circuit, which we always say is high execution because she's very, even though she's very mobile, but she's very high skill cap.
Of course.
Neith was one of the first that people would say is a high skill cap because you have to land the tether as well. Sorry, not the tether, the sash, as well as the ring tosses. And you miss any of those abilities, including the ultimate, you're not going to do much damage with him. But nowadays, people are starting to play to that level. This isn't Season 1 anymore. This is a level where players should be able to play this god effectively.
Duo lane matchups here. We've got Freya and the Bacchus, which is going to be a large amount of burst coming out of these characters. And then on their opposition, it'll be Athena and Hou-Yi.
Surprisingly even in this duo lane in terms of wave clear. So I expect to say there's relatively even in terms of it. I mean, for the most part, what you'll see is Realzx have to play pretty safe for the first few levels. They will have a little bit of push JusTus for now until around level 4, when Freya will have a little bit more clear, and Bacchus will be a little bit tanky so he can go in and belch on all those minions.
Yeah, one of the big changes, we mentioned that Hou-Yi got a change. One of the big changes was his wave clear got a shorter cooldown, so he's able to use that a little bit more. maniaKK here in the solo lane. He's got dog eyes on him as Sanjo looks to make the early rotation. maniaKK sees him, and so there probably won't be any damage there. Mid lane, very different. Zyrhoes gets the first blood onto Fexez with the swift basic.
That'll be down to Epindary coming in there as well with the sash finding. We didn't catch it on camera, but that was a really nice pick from Fnatic. Now they're going to go into the back harpies here and invade and continue the pressure on this lane. Funny thing is, solo lane, we saw, Sanjo was waiting over there. But notice how we saw Argonath play that lane, and notice how maniaKK responded. maniaKK responded knowing for almost certainly. Oh, hang on a second.
Sanjo in some trouble, going to go up in the air as Najah has recently hit level 5. Down comes the dog right into the Spirit Arrow, but able to jump away. The ultimate intercepted by Fexez. Quick body block, going to save the life of the jungler.
Now, off camera as well, what we didn't see was Zyrhoes backflipped while he was in the air so he could detonate the weave the moment he landed with the Spirit Arrow and deal extra damage. That's why you saw his health cripple before he managed to jump away. Nice body block, though, coming out from Fexez. A little bit of luck involved in that, but hey, you need some.
I love Fnatic's play here because it's all been reactionary. They're pretty much as a standard dance, so to speak. It's very choreographed, where junglers will meet up in the middle lane and then from there clear waves and clear out some of the jungle camps that are remaining. Sanjo played something different. He went over to the solo lane, so Fnatic got over aggressive, took the 2v1 in the mid lane, got the first blood, and then off of that went and engaged into the jungle, stole some back camps. So really, Fnatic reacting to how JusTus is playing, taking some wins off of that, and not content with that, going the extra step and stealing some back harpies.
Good momentum for Fnatic coming into this one. Like I said, they want to win all these games too. They're up against Paradigm later on this week on the Sunday, and they have to find wins here to stay in contention for spot of second position, which is a bye. That's a big
Right.
key. It's a bye, and they never have to face off against Epsilon to get their shot at Worlds.
Yeah, that's really the situation for both of these regions, is that the top two teams, or the top teams rather, Epsilon here in Europe and over in North America, Envy, previously AFK Gaming, just seems so dominant that these teams don't want to wind up in fourth. Quick backflip out of Zyrhoes will save his life out of a large gank from JusTus. 2 ultimates used over there. Meanwhile, solo lane, Fnatic, they clean up. Epindary puts himself on the board. 2 kills on Fnatic, 0 for JusTus.
For a substitute, he's making this work for his team. He's been around mid lane
Yes.
twice. They nearly found the gank on Fenrir. Rotates over to the solo. Notice how it's actually JusTus are the ones doing a gank, right? Or attempted to gank just before we see Fnatic do. But Fnatic are the ones getting the results every single time.
And as you said, the jungler has been a big part of this. Epindary has been, we haven't always seen it, but his setup has been very important. And that's really what Naja offers. Quick reflexes out of VoteNBK as he gets away from the belly flop coming out of Badgah.
Should be okay for that lane for the time being. They won't over-aggress. I mean, there's a chance that you could get a banish out, but the rotation could come in to back it up. But they'll be looking to try and get that leap on cooldown from him and then aggress afterwards if they can make that happen. Keep an eye on Badgah so far, because I may see him going to blink this game, dependent on how the game's going, to try and force that jump away from VoteNBK early, and then he can follow up with the flop afterwards.
Right, it's a very similar idea to Blink Kali in the sense that you only have one jump or one chase mechanic, so you'll use Blink on both of these characters. So Bacchus will blink in to trigger the escape out of the opponent, and then able to follow up with the jump.
Precisely, like Odin as well. Odin will leap in, maybe put the ring down immediately, or he'll wait, leap after, and then continue the chase with that blink.
Not all characters can be like Circuit with 2 jumps.
Nope, no they cannot.
3 members for JusTus here grouping up in the mid lane.
A little bit concerned by the beads usage by Epindary there. It's a little bit, it's the safest option, but I don't think he really needed to do that. He heard the Spirit Ball go off already, so they knew there was no real follow-up CC unless Fenrir was going to follow up as well. But if Fenrir follows up, you could save the beads for the Ragnarok for the most part and get away from the danger. Didn't end up really needing to use the beads there, but it's a 3-minute cooldown that JusTus should be looking to try and exploit now.
Yeah, and as we said, Epindary stepping in right now for Captain Twig as a substitute. I mean, these are sort of the, I want to call them nerves. I mean, these are the sort of things where, you know, you don't want to be the guy feeding on camera. Quick Sag, couple of basics. Zyrhoes gets the kill with the long-range ultimate all the way from the mid lane.
There was even Will Weaver coming in there as well, and Athena roll, but good response from Sanjo here. This should be a turnaround kill onto Epindary now, but he's going to use the ult to buy him a second. There is a tower shot waiting for him as he lands.
maniaKK going to help out a little bit. Epindary does what he can, allowing maniaKK to get the kill. The quick ring toss brought down the health of the dog just enough for maniaKK to step in and get a couple of basics.
Imagine if he had his beads there. If he had the beads there, the Ragnarok wouldn't have been cancelled straight away. He could have ulted away, potentially. He tried to ult away under the tower there. He wasn't necessarily trying to catch Sanjo up in the air. It was more to try and get away, but Sanjo body blocked that well for the most part, so it was a good play by him to keep him in the tower range.
Here in the middle lane, we'll see this grouping, and this is one of my favorite points about this team. You see that ward right there in the mid lane. That is a ward that we see frequently here, right in front of the enemy tower. That's a ward that we see frequently out of all the teams in the Pro League these days. But Fnatic was really the team to bring this into prominence. Warding in the lane was not unheard of, but just rare.
This was Fnatic to deal with sentry wards.
Exactly.
This was the issue, because sentry wards are getting placed near the harpies on the left and the right every single time. So if you want to make sure you get vision of the rotations coming out from the mid lane and potentially the jungler, placing it in the mid lane is a good opportunity to see that before they even start making the rotation in the first place, and then not get counter warded either.
Yeah, it just allows you to have a little bit more information. So Fnatic really starting that trend, and now all teams taking note, and that's sort of where information goes to. Aggressive out of Badgah. Gonna belly flop, but no rotation.
No, but they did get a free ultimate there as well. Honestly, getting that out of Qiwen was quite important. Got the big ultimate.
You know, it's interesting. I don't think Fnatic had any intention of going in there.
Not at all.
Badgah was just zoning so his team could clean up the mid harpies. JusTus, on the other hand, they thought they were getting fully aggressed on, so they pull out all the stops to really prevent it. And Badgah just walks away, no problem.
What Badgah's really looking for there is to try and force some sort of some beads or some sort of defensive abilities. He got the silence off of Fexez there in the mid lane, but he didn't get anything else. If he would have got beads there, that would have been a big win for free, almost. They don't find it, but good rotation from Fnatic again, continuing to abuse the situation of having this.
Sun Wukong going to go ahead and lose his blue buff as Fnatic comes out of the wings, support and jungler, taking away the blue buff for the enemy solo laner. Real's going to get out of some trouble here. But we saw over in the mid lane, fantastic play at Fexez to throw the slowdown to prevent the incursion coming onto him. And we'll take a look at the matchup here. Zyrhoes, not recent, but a longtime member of Fnatic, but has played 2 different positions. Left-hand side, little bit of damage. Badgah throws out the Intoxicate. There's 2 fights going on. One in the lane, one in the jungle.
The one in the jungle is definitely going to go into Fnatic's way, but a big blink over from Sanjo may actually save the day here. Qiwen going to taunt Badgah back into trouble, but the damage onto Qiwen's going to be too much, and Zyrhoes will pick up a kill. Fexez finds one in trade, and actually JusTus are coming out on top of this fight. There's 3 collapsing onto Zyrhoes here.
That's a two for 1 going the way of JusTus. They've brought themselves up to 3 total kills. A little bit of an invade into the duo lane, but it's just Zyrhoes by himself. That might have been a little over-aggressive.
Oh, but the backflip actually worked out, followed by the Unravel, should get him out of danger now as well. With Realzx on his way over just to cover, he could potentially cover with a banish if required, and Zyrhoes will get out of a sticky situation there.
Zyrhoes just barely getting out of there. As we said, he's played 2 positions for this team. Started off in the jungle, now making his way into the mid lane. He's been here for about a split now. Captain Twig, the previous jungler, so no roster swap, just actual role swaps. And Fexez, another longtime mid lane player, new for JusTus, but we saw him actually in previous Pro League splits.
Multiple times we've seen him around and about in terms of EU play at a high level as well. One thing to note on those stats that we saw was they're both above 15,000 damage per game average. That's really important that even though you're on a losing team like Fexez is on JusTus this season, he's still keeping up with one of the top teams in EU in terms of damage output. It generally means that he's doing the right sort of thing in his role. Maybe he's dying a little bit more, obviously, and his KD's a little bit lower. However, having the same amount of damage means you're making an impact in the game still.
Fexez is also probably one of the more accomplished players on this roster. Like I said, he's seen some SPL action previously on Mortality once upon a time, whereas the other 4 members here, Qiwen, of course, JusTus, back when they were upcoming stars, are a really big part of that, but everybody else really for the first time here in this split. Fexez has had some experience already.
Can we check in with the golden hand at the moment as well? Because I'm interested to see how right-hand lane is doing. 1,800 gold in hand for maniaKK here, and you can see that Sun Wukong, played by Argonath, is at 220. He's wanting to save up for Mystical Mail. Now, this is the moment you can punish people going for Mystical Mail because they're not going to hit that for a while, but hold on, Qiwen's dead.
Qiwen's getting punished here. Realzx picks up the first kill for himself, 1-0-0 on the long lane. Sort of mage. She's technically a mage, but Freya is all but a hunter. And this is really what we've been seeing out of Fnatic. I mean, we watched Zyrhoes try to 2v1 steal this buff. Fnatic has been all over JusTus's jungle.
Good belly flop follow-up from Badgah there. Now the leaps up from VoteNBK, but look at Realzx preemptively going in the sky with the World Weaver coming in too. They'll pick up one. Sanjo, though, does drag Epindary into a world of hurt. He should be able to get away using the ultimate, but Sanjo chases nicely. He's got rotation coming in from Fexez now as well.
Ultimate from Athena doesn't hit anybody, but she's here nonetheless. Fexez gets the kill onto Epindary. It's a 3v3. Realzx is very low, so he's keeping his distance. That's what he's known for, staying in the fights despite being very low HP. Quick backflip out of Zyrhoes, avoids the long-range stun coming out of the mid lane. Fexez, the rotation proves fruitful for JusTus, but not until after Fnatic claims the life of the enemy hunter.
It was 1-for-1, but the big key there was Sanjo's rotation. If Sanjo didn't turn up to that engagement and counter-gank with the Ragnarok, it would have been a clean 1-for-0. Fnatic would have been able to back out, reset themselves, and get away. But Sanjo played that pretty well to actually pick up one in response, and the rotation from the rest of JusTus supported that. But it was all down to Sanjo for me, not necessarily the rest of the team coming in.
Taking a look here, I mean, we posed the question, does Sanjo get smoked a little bit? Ultimate available from Zyrhoes? The answer is no, so that's a safe dog. But we posed a question about the solo lane real quick, where maniaKK, we were curious how he would go. Building into that Jotun's Wrath, that's showing the cards a little bit. He's going aggressive, just like NBK.
NBK, one of the most aggressive EU hunters that I know of as well. Quite happy to try and trade off with any of the other hunters. Has won and has lost them, but look at this. Rotation from Fnatic to do the Gold Fury. There's no one actually available from JusTus to even contest this. They don't know, because Realzx was in lane as well.
Free gold here going the way of Fnatic. Lack of vision for JusTus punishes them right there. And we'll take a look at the graphs. That is a 3,200 gold lead that Fnatic is sporting early in the game. 12.5 minutes in. They lead the game by 3k gold and 3 kills.
Now, let's talk back to that solo lane again. maniaKK has got that Jotun's finished. And what I was trying to say earlier on was the fact that Mystical Mail's being rushed by Argonath for the safe option. It takes a little bit of time to get online, though. And if you're struggling, you're going to need support, because otherwise maniaKK's going to just deal a lot of damage. But right now, he's in trouble.
Sanjo's ultimate's available. The ultimate out of Chaac comes a little too late, so not able to silence it out, but he beads it anyway. So maniaKK lives to see another day. It
wasn't a bad play by maniaKK, actually. At first, I was like, he did that ultimate way too early before the Ragnarok came off, but he knew himself he had beads. If he potentially got the silence off beforehand, then Ragnarok would never have been able to go off unless Sanjo used it earlier.
Right.
Because obviously the silence would have stopped him from being able to use it.
Epindary shows up. realizes no kill potential on the Sun Wukong, so just throws the ring, picks up some farm here in the mid lane, or solo lane rather. maniaKK gonna go back to base. We'll see what he opts to spend his money on, as he does have a large amount in hand.
He just bought Jotuns before, and now he looks like he's going for the Mail of Renewal,
There
which
we
we
go.
see multiple times as well. Maybe Breastplate of Valor, a bit of a rise in that, but generally, if you're winning a game, you go for that Mail of Renewal, and Badgah, zoning duty again.
Finds himself below half HP, but not a big deal. He's going to go find himself back at base. And really, I mean, we said the Jotun's Wrath will sort of tip the enemy to his hand as far as how maniaKK intends on building here. But this is really where the build departs. In this third spot, Xayah, known for going aggressive on Chaac, will build a power item, Transcendence, a very potent, powerful, power-based item. Whereas a departure from that, Chaac on maniaKK will be going defensive, as we noted. So that's more akin to what we're used to seeing
More
out of
akin
this
to
player.
what maniaKK plays for the most part. I mean, we said he compared him a little bit to Omega in terms of playstyle. He's going to be a frontline tank for his team. Xayah, more of an assassin based, a little bit more like Cyclone Spin. Potentially a carry there in that role. So he'll go for raw damage to an extent, where maniaKK, he'll take some defenses so he can tank up that front line longer.
And with Chaac's ability to heal himself out of that rain that we're seeing channeled right now, it allows him to just stay up in that front line even more so and just deal with the constant threats. He's able to slow the enemy as well while he's healing himself to prevent the enemy from going and finding the damage dealers in the backside. So it's really maniaKK's job here to protect a lot of the squishy characters on his side.
A Mail of Renewal as well going into that. What it's going to mean is that realistically, Sun Wukong can't do much, Sanjo can't do much on Fenrir, and neither can Hou-Yi in terms of killing him. The only one who's got to really worry about there then is Isis. But when you're a Chaac and you can use that big AoE silence, then you've got an answer to most of these gods for the most opportunity. Take into account if he gets a silence off of multiple members and one of them dies, he's getting that Mail of Renewal trigger.
Look at the response from JusTus here. So they put a ward in the mid lane just like every other team.
Big gang left-hand side. VoteNBK became well aware of it, uses the Suns wisely and leaps away, forcing Realzx to have to disengage as well. Realzx didn't feel like going too aggressive there, but mid lane, pressure again.
So this is what I was talking about. JusTus has a ward right where you would expect, in front of the enemy tower. But look at how they react. JusTus put a sentry ward in front of their own tower. Now, that's not necessarily for vision. You can generally see what's in front of your own tower, even if this tower is down. That's to kill Fnatic's ward in the middle lane. So Fnatic forcing JusTus to purchase sentry wards.
And just keep an eye on who's making the rotations there again. I mean, they're forcing to purchase sentry wards, but sentry wards have come so much more into the meta this time round that but all teams are very, very used to buying sentries, a lot more over the normal ward.
Right, but usually a sentry ward is just a more expensive ward that you want anyway. I would dare to say that a ward in front of your own tower in the mid lane, probably not where you want to ward. That's a straight denial tactic.
But if you're currently not in a great situation where Fnatic are out pushing you in the mid lane, because Fexez got to play very safe against this Neith now, then he couldn't be making those rotations through that gap anyway, so it can help a little bit.
All right.
The big key of it, though, is the fact that sentry wards in the mid lane, you want to deny vision of your opponent more than anything else. Because otherwise Fexez is going to have to rotate back to his own jungle for the back harpy way before he can enter the jungle without being spotted exactly where he is. Realzx is in a lot of trouble here because he doesn't have an ultimate.
Beans are down now, and the stun comes out immediately afterwards. VoteNBK finishes it off with a single basic. maniaKK's teleport comes a hair too late. He's still walking up. That was really just to meet up with the wave.
Really good work from JusTus over in that duo lane. VoteNBK, I've said multiple times, very aggressive, but talking about aggression right now, Sanjo is looking for a pick on Zyrhoes here. Going to pick him up, and Beads immediately falls, backflips away. And Fexez, well, he might be the one in trouble now.
Ultimate being channeled by the Neith, stuck in the back line. maniaKK has arrived down onto Fexez. As soon as Epindary brought down the mid laner, the ultimate out of Neith connected. The fight continuing with Fnatic hitting the gas pedal, and they'll chase JusTus into the own jungle, and not willing to overextend is Fnatic. They'll go right back into the mid lane and look for the wave.
Not so sure about that fight because they knew the rotation from Fnatic was a lot better to that team fight, especially from Chaac, maniaKK, who teleported into the duo lane there. VoteNBK and Qiwen a little bit late on that rotation in, and it kind of swayed that into Fnatic's favor. JusTus had an opportunity in a 5v4, and it's Fnatic that ended up coming out on top, finding that pick on Fexez for relatively free.
JusTus here fighting to keep their land dreams alive. They've got to win both games. And despite trailing right now, there's still a lot of smite to be played. 17.5 on the clock. JusTus trailing by 3 kills, about 4,000 gold, but decently in position to go ahead and turn that around. 3,900, 4,000. That's not a deficit. That is impossible to come out of, especially if you start looking at Gold Fury.
Well, here's the key. The next Gold Fury is where it's at, because whoever gets this Gold Fury for me is probably going to take the game. If JusTus don't get this one, they potentially will lose a couple of lives for it. is what I'm saying, and then we may be in a situation where Fnatic snowball the game out of control. If JusTus though can find this Gold Fury, it kind of relatively brings things back to even for the most part.
And so we've illustrated how JusTus really, or what JusTus needs to do to go about taking control of this game. Now the next obvious question is, how do they do so? Fexez on the Isis has fantastic objective secure control, but it's being started by Fnatic right now. This is a great start. The first Gold Fury of the game was uncontested. This time, JusTus ready to fight. The dog goes up in the sky. Down comes Fexez. He's going to be in some trouble as Epindary already took a lot of life off of him. maniaKK claims his life. Epindary claims the life of Qiwen. Only 3 members for Fnatic remain, and 2 of them have already retreated. Argonath up on that cloud, doesn't look like he wants to come back in. Fnatic are going to go ahead and aggress onto the Gold Fury. Realzx, that's not zoning, that's killing. He's chasing these players while the rest of his team gets the kills onto the objectives. That's a little bit of both worlds, and Fnatic will push ahead even more so. 11-5 on the kills, and take a look at the gold. 7,000 gold by way of Fnatic.
Delete the magical gods and rely on the rest of your abilities to just tank up. Look at this, 2 Mail of Renewals almost online. Sovereignty there as well, extra health online from that Soul Eater as well on the side of Neith. So these guys are able to deal with physical very well. You delete the magical. What have they gone for every single time in these fights? Effed up. Fexez.
I like the Soul Leader on the Neith because it's going to help Epindary a lot. Badgah is known for being ability-based, of course, but as the game gets later and later, the basic attacks are very scary. Not only is the attack chain very scary, the 4th hit of the attack chain hits for a lot and is AoE, but Flaming Spear, the second ability on Badgah, is one of the most potent steroids in the entire game.
Well, with the Mail of Renewal online for it as well, take into account. Oh, big hit on that. That Will Weaver hitting during
That's
the
trouble.
Qiwen's going to come in here and probably die as well for his punishment. I mean, it looks like Argonath's going to fall. Now, what's Qiwen going to do to get away? He's going to bounce around. Luckily, he's got reinforcements coming.
The rest of JusTus is here. Long-range stun through the wall. Beautiful play coming out of Fexez. Is it enough, though? Ultimate immediately popped out of the Isis. JusTus just looking for an exit. Fnatic, however, blocking all of the doors. Fexez is going to die off-screen. Qiwen being focused by Realzx, and it's just a matter of time. Couple more hits out of the sword. Qiwen falls.
Count the numbers, it was a 5v4 all the way. Hou-Yi still in that duo lane trying to farm up. VoteNBK going to take the tower, and look at this. Fnatic turn their attention to the Fire Giant now. That fight started off as a 1v3, turned into a 1v2, turned into a 5v3, and then the final member of JusTus turned up too, and it was too little too late. They all had to run away. Fnatic clean up, get a free Fire Giant, and things are looking grim for JusTus right now.
Well, it was cheap, but not free. We do see Hou-Yi taking the tier 1 tower on the left-hand side, continuing down the lane, might even be able to get the tier 2, not quite. maniaKK goes ahead, ports over, and makes himself known, and NBK forced out.
They get a tier 1 tower on the left, they lose Fire Giant, they lose multiple members of their team, and they lose the speed buff on top of that for a tier 1 tower.
I like how you mentioned the speed buff.
Hey, speed buff's really important. Ask any jungler.
The speed buff is one of those items that, yes, it's very important for a jungler to be able to rotate the map at an efficient rate of speed, but it's also just a sort of a mark of pride. This is my speed buff. This is what I get. maniaKK, this is typical maniaKK, taking on 3 members of the enemy team by himself, waiting for his team to show up. That's exactly what they do. JusTus, they've played this team before, though. They know better.
Look at that rain from maniaKK, just healing him straight back up to full health as well. He's not concerned in the slightest right now. Level 20 already. Nice and quick for him. Almost a level a minute he's averaged out there. Qiwen gets a good taunt off here, but is there any follow-up?
That's the question that JusTus is asking themselves. And before the fight even begins, Realzx winds up with 1, follows it up quickly with the better half of a double kill. That's 3 for the Valkyrie, and he's still pushing the go button. Tunneling back, looking towards the tower. NBK is stunned, and NBK is slain. Zyrhoes picks up the 4th kill in that engagement for the side of Fnatic. And as the tier 2 tower crumbles, Fnatic still pushing forward, led, of course, by maniaKK, looking towards the Phoenix. And this one will inevitably fall. Fnatic, the first one with a Firebird down.
Devastating situation for JusTus here, because honestly they came into this needing every single game for the rest of the split to win, to have a shot still at LAN, and right now it looks like Fnatic are just going to slowly clean them up for the most part in this game 1.
Grabs a taunt quick, but it's just not enough. JusTus trailing by a little bit too much. Over 10,000 gold deficit for JusTus here, and really the 10,000 mark is really where I start to start to feel a little
Depends
poor.
on the time of the game too. And 20 minutes into the game, and you're 10,000 gold down. Yeah, if it was like 10,000 gold down at an hour and 20 minutes into a game, then it doesn't mean that much.
Have we seen an hour and 20-minute game, Handyman?
No, I think our longest game in SPL is like 60.
It was 60
minutes.
plus. We have seen
62.
an hour plus long game here in the SPL, but I don't think we've reached 90 minutes just yet.
Oh, can you imagine that game?
I would not want to imagine that game.
Final of Worlds. Final of Worlds.
I mean, I absolutely love high-octane Smite,
and
and I
final.
absolutely love high-octane Smite Hindu, and I absolutely love to commentate. But would you want to commentate an hour-and-a-half Smite game, no break?
I'm fine with that.
Your face
honestly,
is betraying.
Honestly, I am fine with that.
You guys can't see. We don't have a Hindu cam here going on, but
I'd love to do that. I'm not even talking about if it was the final at Worlds and that happened, the very last game. Perfect.
I think that might be a little bit different.
I'm fine with that because it just means like the World Championships is about to come down.
Sure,
to one
sure.
mistake.
I'll give you Worlds. All right, if it's Worlds, I'm on
That's
board.
what I said. I'm like, yeah, it's Worlds. I'll do anything at Worlds.
So we're 23 minutes, 24 on the dot here in this game. It's a long cry away from the 61-minute longest game the SPL has ever seen. So
Big shout outs to Epindary for this game, though. Good performance from him. It was very important that he came out of the blocks flying early on. They want to put JusTus to bed in game 1 and give them no hope of making it, so they can take game 2 off them as well, which they need to catch up with Paradigm and potentially take that second seed. This was an important series for them, and Epindary stepped in today, and right from the word go, find himself a couple of early kills and put the pressure on across the whole map that has set Fnatic up for this win.
Fnatic pushing down what could be their final siege. They've already killed Qiwen, so the Athena off the board here. One Phoenix still alive for the side of JusTus. Fnatic funneling in here via the right lane. Realzx, however, he's thirsty for blood, looking directly at the Titan. The Phoenix falls, so this Titan is very vulnerable. 5,000 and less HP on it. It's at 50% HP. JusTus doing what they can, but Realzx says no. All of the attention focused onto the Titan, and that will fall. Fnatic come up on the good side of things, and JusTus can no longer make land.
Slowly but surely, as the game went on, the continuing growth of Fnatic there, they just slowly crept themselves into the game, into a lead. They got an early Gold Fury, which was uncontested, and the second one, well, it was contested a little bit. Wall coverage was too slack on JusTus to even spot it out too early enough to contest, really.
Exactly, and we've spoken to teams about the Najah pick in the past, and really what Najah brings is not only can he control specific characters later on in the game. We saw that a lot, the focus onto Fexez so that the Circle of Protection couldn't come out during team fights, but early on, Najah is a beast to deal with, and I mean, we saw this over here. Zyrhoes ultimately got the kill, but a large part of it had to do with what Epindary really brought. So why don't we just take a look?
We missed this fight, but I can guarantee you that a sash was landing. It had to have been. There you go. You see the follow-up, and Vex says all he can do is stand in place after the root comes out. Unravel doesn't find it, but the in-hand does for the most part, and a nice pickup from the boys of Fnatic. And that was Ependary's very first gank attempt in that game, finding a kill for his mid lane.
I love the accuracy as well coming out of Zyrhoes. I mean, the abilities were not enough to secure that kill, so you absolutely have to land that basic, and there weren't any misses. It was just a single basic, and with basics on the mind, Freya comes to mind as well, and Realzx is going to be our player of the game. Coming out of the long lane for Fnatic, only a single death, 8-1 and 2 on the Hunter player.
Didn't speak too much about him during the game because for the most part he was just off farming.
Look
but
at
when
that.
the opportunities arose, he did pick up the kills, and that's what your job is as a Hunter for the most part, is find those kills. Generally the later stages of the game, but if you can get them early, props to you because it means you'll be even stronger the later the game goes.
This was a triple here coming out of Realzx right here, going to the sky, and what could have been a quadra, but one of his teammates cleaned it up just a little bit. And I mean, this is what late game Freya does, just absolutely melts the competition. And a lot of it has to do with maintaining the situation when it comes to the cooldowns. Freya may seem like a basic god at first, but what Banish can do when used efficiently can really set up what your teammates can do later on down the line. And Pulse Irradiate, you're only Freya for 5 seconds at a time. So it's really up to the player to understand what to do when those cooldowns are down.
Really good situation. Let's have a look at the top performers from Alpha Draft from that game. I'm expecting it's more than likely going to be Fnatic all the way.
Most likely, AlphaDraft.com presenting these, and it's Epindary, the substitute and the coach, really making himself known, winding up on top there as far as our performers are concerned on Alpha Draft.
For the most part, that game for me was Epindary and Zyrhoes. Like, they just set that game up for the rest of the boys just to do what they usually do. Ependary's early gank pressure on that mid lane really helps out Zyrhoes. Zyrhoes was then able to influence with World Weavers and good rotation limitations to the fights as well, and it just allowed the others just to do what they normally do.
I like the Chaac as well out of maniaKK. It's interesting. A lot of times we see Hercules or Sun Wukong, and really, he did the same thing that we normally see maniaKK do. He stands, he's tanky, he pushes himself in front of his team to sort of space out and keep the opponent at a distance. And I mean, it doesn't really matter which god he played here, Hinduman. He was successful in keeping that spacing.
Another worst thing is for me is like somber mood is going to be in the camp of JusTus right now. Like they realize they can't make LAN anymore. They're in the bottom two once again, and technically it's a different lineup this time for the most part. Qiwen's been in this situation before though, and they'll be looking for something potentially, you know, what can they really look to do to improve or cheer themselves
Well,
up?
improve is really the key point there, because don't forget this: the playoff dreams might be down for this team, but they do have to look at relegation. They're going to fight to keep their SPL spot, and so improvement is exactly what they need to do. We saw a change in their roster, so as we go into Game 2 with them taking on Fnatic, this is a good opportunity for them. Not only is it the real professional SPL stage, but it's a top-tier team. Look to see some of your issues in the last game and fix them in Game 2. We'll get into the